I was quite different in high school and going on. I actually, if I know what I'm going to do the next day, I get anxious. If I know what I'm going to do the next week, if I have a plan in front of me, I get anxiety.
That's so interesting.
So I actually don't, I want there to be a surprise every day in my life. And so I leave my calendar and my optionality, like everything in my life is open for serendipity and things that will happen, collisions, if you will, from Tony Hsieh. I don't like plans.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Jeff Burningham. Welcome to season 2 of the Extraordinary Us podcast. Despite our differences, we are all a lot more alike than we are different. No matter our circumstances, we are all just ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The purpose of this podcast is to share stories from people you may or may not have heard of to remind us of that fact. I also believe, and this has become evident over the last year, that many of us are kind of slowly bleeding out emotionally. And this podcast aims to elicit more compassion and less comparing to those around us and help us be more emotionally whole. And I couldn't be more excited today to be back in studio in my house. We built a studio in here. I'm finally back to recording. We're launching season 2. And I have a really exciting guest here right now, Scott Paul, none other than Scott Paul, the famous entrepreneur.
Man with 2 first names.
That's right.
Gotta watch out.
That's right. And he has a ferocious beard.
This is actually 1/3 of what it was a month ago.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
So it was huge.
The COVID beard, I was going for what is called a yeard, which is a beard for a year.
Yeah.
I think. And
did you make it?
The wife and the kids threatened to do a little, is it Samson or who's in the Bible? They were going to cut it in my sleep. So I'm like, I negotiated 1/3 of the beard versus losing all of it.
Oh, that's cool.
So you're looking at 1/3.
I had a beard kind of like that. Did you? Until like a couple weeks ago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got grown it about that long.
One day we're all going to come out of our houses here pretty soon in the summer and, burn the masks and have a earth party and see each other and what we look like now after a year.
Yeah, that would be so awesome. I can't wait. So let me tell you a little bit about Scott. He's a serial entrepreneur. We've been friends for 5 or 6 years now. Actually, the venture fund that I started with some guys invested in one of Scott's startups, Woolly. We'll talk a little bit about that. Scott's well-known in the crypto world as well. We'll talk some about that. And maybe I should say, there is no investment advice being given in this podcast, Scott. Is that right?
We have to do that.
We are giving no investment advice, but we are going to talk about startups and about crypto. Scott is a free thinker, one of the most innovative thinkers, I think, in the state of Utah. And I'm excited to see what's up.
Actually, I think I can give investment advice. You can't.
I can't.
But I'm going to because I have some, and I believe that one of the things that got me kicked off LinkedIn is I said, literally, you are an idiot if you don't have some percentage of your net worth in cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
It can be 0.01%, but go out, download Coinbase, and buy a little bit of a coin. Buy 5 Doji coins or Doggy coins, whatever you want to call that. Buy something and see what the experience is like. So that is one investment advice I will give to everyone.
Yeah, that's fine. I totally agree, by the way. I kind of busted my advisor a month ago and just said, how can we not have any crypto exposure? Where are you at? Like, we got to have some. I agree, crypto exposure. It's obviously not tied to the way that governments are printing money right now. Like, it's hard to understand how fiat currency won't inflate crazily, and to have Bitcoin and or cryptocurrency not tied to a country or entity. I think that's interesting.
It's interesting, and investment advisors need to be listening.
Yeah, so Scott's prolific on LinkedIn. You can find him there, by the way. And really, that's kind of where I'd like to start, and why I messaged Scott and said, Scott, get in here to my podcast studio and let's talk, is Scott had this awesome post in the last week or two about, it really resonated with me, kind of stepping down from being the CEO of Woolly, understanding who he was and what he was going to do next. In fact, this is the line, Scott, that's been going through my head since I saw this post, and I want to start here. You said, I'm a connector and an igniter. I am not a marathon runner or an operator. Mm-hmm. That was in your announcement of kind of stepping down. Talk to me about self-awareness. Talk to me about how you came to this conclusion and how you've been thinking about it. I think it was really interesting.
Well, I think there's this pressure, especially on a CEO, especially when I took your money.
Yeah.
Jeff,
and other investors' money. Yeah.
And other investors' money. And I went out, and with that, I have to lead and pretty much lead for, whatever amount of time it takes to get that money back or make that company grow. And I realized I had never been at a company until Woolly more than 3 years. Even my own companies. I've started and sold a few companies. I've been at other people's companies, and I have an expiration date of about 3 years.
Yeah. Before
my ADHD kicks in and makes me useless. Makes me not really that valuable because I can't feel after a while. I have to run to something different. And here I was in my 5th year of Woolly, and I was getting in my own way. I'm just I wasn't excited. I couldn't rally the team. I think people could see it, that I'm just and I'm out over here trying to do angel investments and getting excited about crypto. And you just can't have that type of leader. A CEO needs to be really, I think, focused and dedicated. And in this case, growth minded for the next stage. And I'm not the person right now for the team. And it's not that Woolly's a bad idea. It's not that I'm a bad leader per se, but I just realized I've come and done what I needed to do. I helped start it. Yeah. The ideation. I got the first funds. Yeah. I got the product off the ground. I found our customers. I sprinted. Yeah. That's me.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
And now I need to turn it over to someone who knows how to grow it.
Yeah.
And mature it and hire and raise the next run. And I'm if I don't find that person, I'm only doing myself and all the employees a disservice. And we're going to be lingering for years possibly. Yeah. This isn't right. I need to get out of my own way. No one told me to leave.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. None of the investors did. But you say self-awareness. I mean, I guess so. I think we all should be aware of hiring better than, finding people that are better
to replace yourself.
We should all be thinking that. Every CEO, every role you have in your life, you should be thinking is, am I the best person now? Maybe not marriage or another duties we have.
Yeah.
But that's what it. And so I quickly wrote that in the middle of the night, I think, but it said, I realized I'm an igniter.
Yeah.
I can get people excited. I can start things, and I'm highly social and connective. I can connect and synthesize tons of relationships and people.
That doesn't mean though that it's not hard to do what you did though. And I kind of resonate, right? You know my journey a little bit. Yeah. Real estate to venture to running for governor to podcaster to I kind of feel that same anxiousness that you do after several years, and or when things get scaled up to me, when I feel like this is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's scaled up, the risk has been largely sucked out of it. There's a lot of upside here, but it's really about operations and efficiency. I lose my mojo, man. Yeah. So I resonate with that. It's one of the reasons I love the post, but that still doesn't mean it's easy. And I did glimpse in your post some pain. It still is hard. How did you have the courage to do that? How did it feel? How does it feel? You know what I mean? Again, I resonate stepping away from the venture fund that I started that continues to do well, but to run for governor, I felt like I should do it. I did it. It doesn't mean that it was without pain then and or even now,
Yeah, no, that's a world I can't even go to because of the pain and the scrutiny that would be placed on me. But I remember so clearly. So Kyle Fraughton is a friend from actually 20 years ago. I met him in Italy when we were being Mormon missionaries together.
And is this the guy who's going to be the CEO?
Yeah, he's now with the CEO, and he was at Team and the CRO there, and kind of the CRO of this another company called Strata Services, and he's seen 2 exits in 2 years, and he's been that sales growth operator guy, and I'm like, that's someone I need, and I trust him, and I'm like, we weren't looking for a CEO. It wasn't like we went out and did an official search or anything. It's just I had this idea that I'm like, I think I need to recruit Kyle to come give himself a shot at CEO role, not just a sales, running sales and revenue for a company. And I was working on him for 2 months. He really, kind of casually, and then it became more and more real to the point where I went to the board and I asked them, guys, I think I need to do this, for the betterment of Woolly. And they gave us some ideas and got creative. And I remember when he accepted, this is how he did it. He calls me and he's like, Scott, and it was kind of the end of the timeline. He's like, Scott, I just can't do it. I'm sorry, man. And I'm like, there's silence. And I was like, do I get angry? Do I tell him he's the worst decision of his whole life?
Yeah.
And he lets me sit in that for 20 seconds. Yeah. And then he goes, just kidding.
That's how good friends do it.
So then I'm like, then I'm elated. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to work. He's going to come, bring Willie to the next level. And that night I was at Sundance, the Owl Bar up there. It's a good place to eat and meet.
Hang out.
So there with my wife and some friends. And I remember some of the friends, I was meeting some Israeli people from Vegas who had went home, were doing it, and they left the table. And then I was waiting for my wife to come down from our house and meet me there. And so I was in between this time. I just sitting there in this beautiful Robert Redford, cabiny
wood
place. It's so good.
It's so good, yeah.
And I fell apart.
Really?
Like I realized what just happened that day.
Yeah.
And that I have for 10 years, I had been a CEO of a company. I had a herd, if you will, a flock, because that's kind of ironic. My company's called Woolly, but I've had this between two companies that I've operated, started, and run. For 10 years, I was a CEO, and that was over. And that era of my life, because I don't have any, I wasn't being recruited to go run another company.
Yeah.
This was like a void that was going to occur in my life. I had nothing.
Yeah, the future is uncertain, right?
Very uncertain. There was, and it was costly. I gave up salary and lots of equity to bring this person over, but I know it's the right thing. The abundance mentality that I've learned to have when it comes to startup life is that, it's if he can make this thing worth more than it is, my smaller piece of that pie is actually worth a lot more.
Yeah.
So it's not without any greed. I'm like, I think it's going to be the right move financially and for everyone's livelihood. But I was gut punched and I was bawling.
I've had those days.
I just put my head
painful.
down. I didn't want anyone to see me, but I was done.
Like the team that you recruited, you put together, you're building with them. All of a sudden, there's a rift, right? And there's a void, and it's just not going to ever be the same. No. And that is painful. I understand that pain. One of the things you said that I love, that by the way, I think differentiates entrepreneurs from, I'm speaking generally everyone else, the future is always uncertain. So you don't know exactly what the future looks like. None of us do.
No.
But you can get lulled to sleep as an employee or as whatever, kind of thinking, things don't change. We've all been taught, obviously, in the last year with COVID, et cetera, things do change. Everything changes. Practically. But I think one of the things that entrepreneurs, do you agree with me, are more comfortable with is that notion the future is uncertain for everyone and everything. Therefore, and I'm speaking for myself, therefore, I'm willing to jump off. I'm willing to leave my company and do something crazy like run for governor, start a podcast, whatever, because I know that nothing is guaranteed and nothing is really certain. Do you agree with that? And what's next, Scott? Like, I know you don't see the future exactly, but I don't know. What's on your mind? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I do agree with you. I'm wired a little different than probably almost any entrepreneur in that I run to risk and I run to uncertainty. So my brothers, all three are at ExxonMobil.
Yeah. Not too risky, probably.
The opposite of risk. Uncertainty until this year.
Yeah.
One got laid off and everything changes, right? This was the Golden Handcuffs company that they would retire at 65 with. I was quite different in high school and going on. I actually, if I know what I'm going to do the next day, I get anxious. If I know what I'm going to do the next week, if I have a plan in front of me, I get anxiety.
That's so interesting.
So I actually don't, I want there to be a surprise every day in my life. And so I leave my calendar and my optionality, like everything in my life is open for serendipity and things that will happen, collisions, if you will, from Tony Hsieh. I don't like plans. I don't like I run to.
Have you psychoanalyzed that? Like,
no,
why is that?
I haven't. I think there's others like me out there, but like, it just makes me feel, I don't know. That
feel trapped.
If I know what I'm doing, if I'm at a company and I know I'm making this much money and I'm kind of stepping up the ladder and this is what I'm going to be doing when I'm 50, I'll lose my mind.
Yeah.
That gives me anxiety.
I agree. I mean, I can resonate with that.
Knowing that I have nothing planned in the future is like the most exciting thing. And that didn't come because I have, wealth to back me up. That was when I was poor. That was when I was sitting in the desert working at a company called Anasazi, guiding youth through the desert to like rehabilitate. I had nothing to my name. One week I didn't have water for 2 days.
Wow.
And that was the best moment of my life. I did not know where I was going to be the next day, what I was doing. So this has been with me.
And you felt free.
I felt absolutely free, absolutely untethered. In fact, all my life, I'm trying to get back to that.
This is so interesting. But so how do you live I'm going to just air quote, normal life, like with a wife and kids, which you have? And
yeah, I do have those. But
like,
there's nothing normal about it.
Yeah. Well, what's the balance between kind of living a more normative life, at least to our world, and this kind of freedom and flexibility and excitement of the unknown? What is your balance? Because I've struggled with that balance as well.
It's volatile. It's volatile. My wife feels often very triggered by this. Who she's very, very. I think I wouldn't say she's the opposite. She's not the 9-to-5 Exxon mentality, but like definitely likes a plan. Definitely likes to have some future planned out. And so we have, over 17, almost 18 years now, had gone through the worst of it. And right now we're in a good place. Like, she just knows this. She's starting to realize, like, she married a very volatile, like, unstable substance that is, every year gonna have different things going on. My interaction with my kids. In fact, now we're realizing that our kids, I think out of the 3 of them, 2 of them are more like me.
Yeah.
And it's hard. In fact, as we speak, one's at a therapist today to deal with.
The highs are higher and the lows are lower, right, Scott? This is how my life is. The highs are high, baby.
Oh, yeah.
You are flying high on top of the world. Anything is possible.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in the future. So it's like anything is possible. But the lows can be low. How have you survived those? How have you gotten through those?
I'm kind of in a low right now because I injured myself and I can't get around. And I'm, you see me here because you see the crutches leaning against the table and the wall over there. That, it's not usually, the lows aren't as much physical as they are mental.
Yeah. But if you don't have your health, I mean, that can be
It helps to keep your body going. And so, this lately I found that the physical limitations are playing on my mind a little bit.
Not surprisingly, Scott tried to pull like a Ted Ligety, or I don't know who the best mogul skier is, but at like 50 miles per hour, and he tore his ACL. Yeah. And by the way, there was a lot of hooting and hollering, like cheering from the
there was
lift,
from the chairlift.
Ski lift.
I was exhibitioning right under the lift, and they were hollering. And when I felt the ACL tore, I'm like, that was not worth it. It doesn't matter how many hoot and hollers. This was not. Wasn't worth it. Ending my season of mountain biking and skiing.
I think it was before I ran for governor, because I lost a year or 2 in there with like, I just don't. But didn't you injure yourself really bad like a couple years ago, like being pulled by a horse or something?
Yes.
When was
that? Was 2 years ago. I was pulled by a horse. This thing called ski joining. I think I did something to my other knee that I'm gonna have to someday go fix. But I did a jump. You get pulled by a horse, and then you go for a long jump on a flat jump. It was the dumbest thing I could ever have done. And I got second place, and
like in length.
Yeah, and I would have won a belt buckle if I got first place.
Oh, dude, that's worth.
That's probably the only thing I've ever won. Actually, I never did anything in high school that got me anything but suspended. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, the last 4 years, I've become what you would call a LinkedIn creator. I post every day.
Yeah. Is that hard to keep up with? Like, I can't.
It's my only habit. I brush my teeth. There are only 2 things I'll do in the day, and I'll probably post on LinkedIn one time, and I'll brush my teeth.
That's for sure. Those 2 things
those
are
for sure. Yeah. Getting dressed is not there.
Yeah.
That's not one of them. So with that, I've learned a lot, and I have met thousands of people digitally.
That's cool.
But thousands.
And do you feel like that's meaningful? Like,
I know that's why I post every day. Something's going on. I have now enough incoming messages that I realize that I need to keep doing what I'm doing, because whatever I'm saying is speaking to people of all race, gender, nationality, whatever, religion. Yeah. And I'm hearing stories from the ground, and every time I post, every single post, there's something that happens. So I don't know what I mean. What I'm trying to say is, like, every single post leads to something
good
that happens in the real world too. Yeah. An opportunity, a connection, an investment, a friend.
Do you manage all those incoming messages yourself, though?
I do everything.
Gosh, is that hard? Like, how much
that's
time
why,
does
that's why
that
we need
take,
to talk to my wife. I mean, that's just one source of incoming message too, is LinkedIn. Then I have this Volley app, and I have email, and I have Slack, and I have
text
SMS. Yeah. So between all of it, it's easily a 4-hour a day thing. That's my work. Actually, my work is connecting and igniting. Where does that happen? What's the tool? It's that iPhone 12 right there. That's the tool. So when it's hard when my kid's like, what does dad do? Well, he's on a phone a lot. I'm not behind a computer like this. I don't sit and look at spreadsheets and stuff. I'm not on a desktop.
Yeah.
I'm doing connections, and that doesn't look like work to most of the world. Yeah. But the stuff I'm doing has brought me all of my friendships, all of my wealth, all of my hobbies, all of my adventures. It's the way I've raised money for myself. It's the way I've found team members. It is the way I have found money for other people. So it's a weird way of knowledge working happening from this little device that I could be playing game with, some Candy Crush or something, because it all looks the same to the outside. If I'm not at a desk punching, but I'm working.
That's interesting. That's so. And so does that? How do your kids treat social media? How do you think about social media with your kids? Like this isn't an easy question, but
I'm an investor in Gab, which is the anti-phone.
So am I, by the way. Again,
so
investment advice, but
Exactly.
So are your kids on Gab?
They were until they got to like 13.
Okay.
It's hard.
And did you watch The Social Dilemma?
I did. Yeah.
So like, how do you balance the social dilemma and kids side with what you're doing for work? Which, by the way, like if there isn't a testimonial, like Zuckerberg should play this podcast like in front of the Senate for like you said all my friendships, all my wealth, all my hobbies and adventures, which by the way sounds fun and cool, have come from
stem from things that are coming from this. Yeah. 100%.
Like, that's so cool. But 100%. How do you balance it with like the social dilemma side, the kids, blah, blah, blah?
I don't think I do.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
But you think about it, right? But do you think about it?
Let's be honest. I'm not balanced.
So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about it though? Like how?
There's times of sadness when my kids won't grow up. Like their memory of their dad is this guy who is constantly connecting with thousands of people, like a switchboard operator at the old telecom companies.
Yeah,
that's their memory. Now, do I have moments where I'm not connected? Of course.
Yeah,
but they're not like what I grew up with. My dad was busy. He was an entrepreneur. He was often on calls. If we were driving somewhere across the country, he would have call after call on a mobile phone when those things came out.
Yeah,
but we don't have I think all parents are going to be faced with we don't have these times where there's just nothing to do anymore and we get to sit in silence with our kids like we used to. They have phones and we have phones.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of going to those unless you are really intentional about removing those, which I try to watch the most astute families and like getting rid of the phones and stuff around it. I haven't seen a lot of them. It's hard to these things are made to social dilemma style. They're made to suck out every free moment.
Yeah.
So we have some things we do. I love playing Monopoly Deal and chess with my daughters, and try to get them bike riding as much as we can on trails up by our house.
Yeah.
I love to do films and videos, but
it's impossible to tear your ACL, by the way, on your phone, going down the moguls, like if you're just on the phone, or get behind a horse pulling you.
There you go. So we have there are times we're not on the phone, but I think about it, and a lot of those downtime, a lot of the times that in the past we used to just kind of fill with who knows what conversation with each other. I think they are getting filled with watching YouTube videos, watching, my girls do play games. Like we try to put on the stuff that keeps them from doing that, but they love it. And they're not introverts. The best thing I can say is that my kids get around people at parties, and when I bring over families and entrepreneurs to our house or go to their houses, they're chatterboxes. They love to meet and talk. So they have that gift of gab. They still can do that, but I don't know. I can tell you that most people try to sit here and tell you that they found some balance. I'm a wreck.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm a wreck.
I agree.
I don't want anyone to have to go through what I'm going through. I feel like I'm taking one for humanity. I'm dead serious. I am going to kind of suffer and sacrifice that balance.
Yeah.
Because I'm supposed to do something.
Hey guys, it's Jeff. Thank you so much for listening to the Extraordinary Us podcast. There's a lot of momentum behind the podcast right now, and we are so excited. I've got a special guest with me for a second here, my wife, Sally.
Hello, good to be here.
Why are you here, Sal?
We're starting a new podcast together, which I am super excited about. It is called Under Our Bed.
And we are literally people under our bed recording
We are
right now.
sitting right under our bed.
And if you want to hear more about why we called it Under Our Bed, tune in to our first episode, wherever you get your podcasts, because we're going to explain what it means. We hope to have candid and meaningful conversations together about issues that are relevant to you today.
Absolutely.
Good night, Sal.
Good night.
Yeah, what are you doing? What's next? Like, what are you doing? All this is leading to something, right? I mean, you're hoping that all this time on your phone, on LinkedIn, et cetera, like I know crypto's a passion right now. I know continue to fund startups is a passion. I don't know so you leave Wooly, you're not the CEO, you write this beautiful post, which by the way, do you write all your own stuff?
Oh, yeah.
You're a good writer, dude. Maybe you should write a book. Add that to that.
Well, I can. I'm ADHD, so I have to compile all my posts and make a book with them, which I'm doing right now.
Okay, cool.
Because I can't sit down and write chapters.
No
way. My
feel
life is the limitation of LinkedIn. That's the only thing.
It's like a journal, right?
Yes.
And it becomes like a journal too. That's how I use it as a photo journal, mainly just like Instagram. But like that's where I post pictures and then get the chat books.
Chat books. I have a guy coding up a chat books for LinkedIn right now.
Oh, cool.
So if you want to, so anyone else
like of your posts,
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're all tagged under Scott's posts, and that's become my journal, my kind of business and little things, just little, most of my content's appropriate for LinkedIn. It's somewhat ties to the startup life, but a lot of it's not. Like the other day, I was watching Breaking Bad. I'm like, this is crazy. There's a lot of startup lessons in this show.
Yeah.
So I made a post about that, and everyone started chatting about it. So I'm definitely, using it as kind of selfishly as kind of my journal entries as well. And my dad's a good writer too. I don't have good like grammar or something, but I have the ability to kind of convey an idea and make it a worthy 1 minute read.
Yeah. And
that's kind of why I think I keep going at it, because people like that. So what am I doing next? Ironically, that leap of faith, jump off the next thing and jump out of Wooly. I joined something called Jump. There's the logo.
Make the jump, baby. I like it. Yeah.
And here's the, I invested.
What do you mean you joined? You invested, right? But you've made like 50 or 100 investments.
I've invested, but I'm also joining.
Oh, you're like operating.
No, I'm doing, what am I doing?
You're part of the team.
Part of the team.
Okay, you're part of the team.
I'm doing whatever
you ignite. You're igniting.
I'm an igniter. I am an igniter. So tomorrow I'm flying out 30 investors to Pennsylvania, Amish country.
30.
Wow. To test this experience, this hyper reality VR base jumping experience. I've done it once already, and that's what convinced me. The founder, I want him to lead. I want him to be the CEO. I want him to have the vision.
Yeah.
I'm done doing that.
But you're igniting.
I'm exhausted, but I'm going to help ignite him. I'm going to be.
Are these investors from Utah or
lots of them? Several from New York, several from California, but mostly Utah. Yeah, know a handful of them actually.
Yeah, I'm sure I
should be there. So we're going to go out. We're going to jump, and what this is you put on a helmet, you put on a wingsuit, and then you have goggles over. And then when you're flying, and you're in this new world, you come up to a cliff edge. You see Marshall Miller, who's a professional base jumper with like GoPro and Red Bull, and you see him, and you see there's a Red Bull helicopter flying around you. You feel like you're up on the Swiss Alps,
and you go for it.
And he jumps, and you're supposed to follow. And what happens after you jump is what you would think would happen.
Yeah,
you go face first down a cliff, and the wind is blowing, and you're hauling.
Wow.
And everything you do with your body affects where you fly in that air.
Oh my gosh.
And then you pull your chute and you get whipped up into the air, and then you land.
How long is the experience?
90 seconds.
Wow. Yeah. But so it's just that experience in a physical location. Like there'll be jumps all around the world.
Yeah. Well, the first one we'll actually launch with, it will be Grand Canyon. And then we'll do all sorts of jumps. And the founder, he started something called The Void, and they had lots of cool, downtown Disney and all over the world. They had these experiences.
Ghostbusters.
The Void, they had Star Wars ones, they had Avenger ones. And so he's no stranger to creating a virtual, almost hyper reality, though, because your movement is so different than just putting on an Oculus or something. Yeah. And so that's just the beginning.
Yeah. That's so exciting.
Jump is the first thing. What James Jensen wants to create is a whole world, much like the Oasis, was in Ready Player One, but more for learning, for human potential, kind of going through boundaries that are maybe there in the real world that aren't, overcoming fear, learning, eventually fitness, full fitness machines that might be in your home, but are mixed with VR that, so imagine a Peloton machine that is hyper reality, has all movements, but you can do interactive gaming just like you do see if you read or saw the movie Ready Player One.
That's cool.
So I think he's going to do it.
That's awesome.
And it lines up with one of my creeds, one of my personal mission statements, or if you will, goals. I don't have any. I have one. I shouldn't say I don't have any, but I don't know if this is a goal, but in 2011, I said to myself, I want to be a part of Utah's first household name that's a consumer, something, because we have a lot of SaaS and we have some other things, and we even have like Mormons and jazz, but Mormons came from New York, jazz came from New Orleans. I want something from Utah,
homegrown, started here. But the jump can't be that, right? Because it's Pennsylvania, correct?
Oh, no, that's just a prototype.
Oh.
So we're
because building, James is here.
Yeah, we're here. It's headquartered here. It's going to be here. The team's here.
So the jump could be that. Oh, and if it's not the jump, it could be something else that you invest in, that you shepherd.
That I somehow am a part of the team, whether as an investor advisor or founder. So
what do you think that will be? I don't know.
It'll
be interesting to see. It'll be so fun. Hopefully it's in our portfolio.
Hopefully I'm giving us 10 years where it'll be very obvious that we have it. I think give us 10 years, 2030.
That's exciting.
And it's kind of sad that, I did do post on LinkedIn and everyone tried to argue with me that like, what about this? What about, best one was, how about KFC? I'm like, then it would be UFC.
Utah fried chicken, baby. Yeah. Isn't UFC or, that's something else. Yeah. Not KFC.
No. So UFC, KFC was, I think the first franchise was in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
But they're headquartered out of other places, not here. So there's all these people are arguing with me like, Qualtrics, Domo. I'm like, do you think anyone outside of Utah knows what Qualtrics or Domo is?
Yeah.
No, it's just not a household
There's
name.
some, but it's not a household name.
No, it's a great company.
Oh, yeah.
Making more revenues than many household names.
Yeah.
Is
it known?
But I guess I'm just weird about I want to know I want to have a household name.
I get it.
Zoom became one in just over. Zoom became a household name over COVID.
Yeah.
We have some great companies with consumer brands, Traeger. Actually, that's not from Utah, but Skull Candy.
Yeah.
But that's not household name yet. It's there's.
I get it.
So that's it. So that kind of leads in. So that's one of my big underlying missions is to be a part of that. Is this investment in Jump? This thing could it be there? It feels like it is. It's a remarkable experience. What I'm really looking for in these next things, something that's going to break out. It has to be really remarkable. It has to be something that everyone's sharing, talking about, and to get that viral effect and stuff that Facebook got and that Netflix got.
I get it.
And so this has elements of that. I don't know if it'll be it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So there are a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast. I get messages from them. So how would you sum up your entrepreneurship journey so far, Scott? Or why are you an entrepreneur? What are a couple key lessons? I don't know. For the entrepreneurs that are listening to the podcast, what are your key advice, or give us a little bit? We heard about Wooly, and you can look that up if you want to learn more. Great company. Again, our fund invested. You've told us about Jump and some of the other investments you're making. Tell us about entrepreneurship, your journey so far, where you're headed, why you're bullish on it. I don't know.
I don't know any other way to be. I mean, there's not another option. I'm entrepreneurship it's being human for me.
Yeah. And it's kind of like breathing, right?
It's like breathing. And there's no other way. There's no other way. So I don't I can't tell you why I'm me, but I can tell you that if there's anything, people hear these podcasts and they often just kind of look for the lessons on how to be successful themselves, or what were the pattern matching that can be done so that I can do what he did. There's so much absolute failure in my life that there's only been a few podcasts that I've done that kind of cover that, but I had 10 years of being afraid and failing and trying to do drones before DJI started, trying to do video production, trying to do you know how many apps that I buried?
Yeah.
You know how many apps I started and buried? You know where we met? I was pitching you an app called Voto.
Yeah.
It was like a social media app. That's when I first met you and Sid in the Peak Ventures office. That didn't happen. That was my first attempt to make a household name. I thought it was going to be this. I went all in on that. I took $250,000 of my own money that I did not really have. That was all that I had made from another venture and poured it into a failure. But the thing that life has taught me with time and taking chances and swinging is that those failures have to happen, like metamorphosis in the sense to discover and find the successes. So I completely failed at this photo app. I could not figure out how to monetize and make money with it. But we figured out how to market it. We figured out how to get a lot of downloads. So much so that we started getting calls from other huge apps around the world. And how do you get all those? How are you number 6 in the App Store right now? And we're like, can I buy ads in your app? I mean, okay, maybe that's a way to monetize. But instead, I'm like,
never thought of that.
How about we teach you? How do we teach you how to do what we're doing? We use this thing called influencers on Instagram. It was like in 2012.
Yeah.
Before we knew it, we had contracted with the biggest apps in the world, and one of the richest like entrepreneurs over in London, who ended up selling Bumble to Whitney Wolf and made he's got $7 billion to play, and he gave us our chance. So we actually buried that company and found out, like, why don't we chase this influencer thing? And that's what ended up becoming the Phoenix from the ashes. And if I not kept pressing forward, I've never found that opportunity. I had to spend $250,000 to get one call from this guy, this Russian in London. And then that turned into a company that Disney ended up buying. And so that's all I've learned in my thing, is that if you do not go out there and make stupid swings, just really dumb, at the time, like everyone's against you. You have to do that. First of all, for me as an entrepreneur, to feel alive. But secondly, that's the necessary process of discovering the win, is going through the failure.
Yeah, it's so easy to look at there are a number of these people here in Utah, in every market around the country, and all around the world, these people that have been successful, and you think they've always been successful. It's interesting. I had people, including my lieutenant governor candidate that ran with me, Senator Dan McKay, like, he got to know me better and got to know my story and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I've just always viewed you as super successful. I'm like, Dan, 5 years ago or whatever it is, 7 or 8 years ago, like, I don't know, like, I was struggling to pay the bills, or, whatever the case might be. It's easy to look at these people that have arrived and not understand the process that they have gone to get there, and the failures that you've experienced, like you said, and how close to, like, quote unquote death they've almost been, and then risen from the ashes. I think that is the natural process. A lot of people don't have the stomach for that. And so it's hard to be an entrepreneur, and it's hard to have this outsized success, because so often, and often more than not, you almost do die before you rise up. It's interesting.
You go back and find a secure job, or rely on another income from your wife or something, and kind of surrender the entrepreneurial journey. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because it is hard to stomach. It's just, for me, I can't do anything else. So some people it's a condition. Entrepreneurship. We're given it.
I love it.
And it's a condition. And I have to deal with it every day.
And
my wife has to deal with it. And I take things to deal with it to make it easier. We'll go there on the next podcast. We're not going to Elon Musk, Joe Rogan this one.
I get what you're saying. You do. It is a condition. That's interesting. My wife would share a lot of the same sentiments that I'm sure your wife does. How has that journey influenced your experience into crypto? Obviously that's something that's really hot right now. People are talking about it. Institutional capital, by the way, is flowing into crypto. That's one of the big reasons that there's been such a run up. Also, there's just way too much capital in our system right now in everything. When you see a chart with almost every, whether it's plywood or Bitcoin, or plywood, or like it, when it's straight up and to the right, like there's too much capital in our system. So, tell us about your journey in crypto a little bit, and just for those who are interested, and how do you view it now? I assume you're still bullish. You still think we're in the early innings.
I'm looking at it right now, see what's going on. So I don't speak ahead of myself, but it seems like we're still in a little bit of pullback right now. But I just bought a sick amount of Dogecoin today.
You did?
Yeah.
Dogecoin.
Yeah.
Like, what is the use case?
Exactly.
Here's the thing. I think Dogecoin.
I was where you were 2 days ago.
I think Dogecoin, though, and the reason I'm tempted to buy it, again, we're not giving investment advice, and you will lose all your money. But it's like almost the meme of crypto. It's like
it is the meme of crypto.
It's like the social. It's how the world views the world. It's like the culture right now. Yes. It's like the cultural icon of crypto. Isn't it?
It's the most beautiful world if we are starting to use, if the winner becomes Doge and my kids use Dogecoin, like Dogecoin to pay, get an allowance and pay for Slurpees and stuff. That will be the most beautiful thing with that icon of that dog. I'm actually picking up my shirt today. That's to the moon with the dog. I got it coming. And that'll be it's just like a joke. It just kind of shows us where we're at in life. I mean, and if Rick and Morty hasn't already done that, like this is Dogecoin it's just manifesting that we might kind of be in a matrix. I don't know. There's something going on.
This might not be real.
This might not be real.
I'll be a simulation. Yeah.
If you were to tell your ancestors that by 2020, that someone would make a joke
coin
that would take
that's
over
worth like what 50 billion
$50
50 billion market cap.
It would. In fact, it's happening. It already is. But I don't think you can go into a senior citizen home right now and they would laugh you out. They're like, you know it doesn't. You're telling me Delta, this company's bigger than Delta Airlines, and it's a dog coin that doesn't do anything? Grandson, you're nuts.
But like NFTs are a whole new world too, right? Like these non-fungible tokens.
Yes.
Have you bought any NBA Top Shot?
Yes.
Like I've done NBA Top Shot.
I got 2 of those.
Yeah, I've done NBA
Top Shot. I've lost
Top
a lot there too on some stupid projects that I just.
But you started with Bitcoin a long time. You were an early adopter.
No, I mean I was early. I was fortuitous in that I got in after the Mt. Gox failure, and I was out in LA working for Disney. My friend just had a company that Snapchat acquired, and he is majorly into crypto. And he sat at night and talked to me for night after night about Satoshi and what it is, and I'm like, I'd be a fool not to just download this Coinbase app that was brand spanking new.
Which Coinbase just went public, by the way, for like $100 billion last week. Yeah. I bought some Coinbase, right?
Yeah.
Anyways,
got to buy some of it. So, and then I listened and I'm like, this is one of the smartest people I know. And I would be dumb not to like mirror the investment strategies of smart people. And that's what I did. And it worked. Huh. And the timing was right. Now, the funny thing that I do, and I look back and I remember when the Bitcoin was going, this was about 2015 when I first got into it. And then Ethereum, I got really lucky just buying a bunch of Ethereum when it was very cheap and just holding it. And I remember playing poker in 2017 when everything was at its height. Mm-hmm. And I was just laughing because I would refresh the Coinbase app and I'm like, I can't believe that. So I'm like, there was every hand, didn't matter what my cards were. Yeah. I was all in.
Yeah.
And I had my brother and his 5 friends just laughing because they knew they were just playing. They were just like, they were just getting their Venmo out and they were all like, let's take Scott. Because I just wanted to feel what it was like to have money not matter.
Yeah.
Because that was what was happening in this at the time when every time I refreshed, I couldn't spend what the earnings looked like. Well, right after that, it kind of crashed, as everyone remembers. That was like right before it started going. Mm-hmm. But that experience playing poker and looking at that Coinbase account, and then I started to think about what were these other guys thinking? Like, why didn't they say, Scott, what is this coin? What is this coin thing that is allowing you to go all in on every hand and just be laughing your head off? And none of them asked. None of them cared. And so what came to me is like, so the irony is 4 years later, we do the same game. And it's now same thing's happening. Yeah. Only now it's 10 times what it was there.
Yeah.
I would win money. This was just 3 weeks ago. I'd win money. They'd give me 20s, 100s. I'd rip them up right in their face and I'd throw them on the ground. And that sounds really weird and bold. And like I'll probably get canceled for saying this. But what I was trying to do is show them that, guys, if I don't make an object lesson this time of how important this transfer of wealth from this fiat to what we're doing over here in DeFi land and with crypto and Ethereum and the Binance Smart Chain, if I can't, is there any other way that I can show you that this doesn't matter? And you better learn right now. And you guys are doctors and you're dentists. You need to learn. right now, and I'm going to make an object lesson. And so I was ripping up hundreds.
Is that illegal, by the way?
It probably is.
Okay.
Come and get me. I'll pay the government back, right?
Yeah.
It should be illegal to be able to print that without any cap. That's what should be illegal, because that's what I was trying to tell them. This coin, this dollar can be printed infinitely. What I have over here is scarce.
It is.
And so and that time they listened. The next few days, I'm sitting there coaching people how to get into the Binance Smart Chain, how to buy coins. So now this
which
dentist,
is incredibly complicated.
It is complicated.
Oh
this dentist sold he's trying to sell his practice. He has 4 locations, and he's all in on crypto.
Wow.
This time he listened. The first time he didn't. He missed the best run because he didn't listen. But so where I go in this weird storytelling is that what I learned is like, I learned to like, why are people so scared to mirror their strategies off the people that they know firsthand are successful with their bets? Why are we listening to like the Fox Newses and stuff and the things that like, who knows who's behind that stuff? Yeah. Go find people in your life who are making bets and are obviously making good bets and just follow along.
Yeah.
And that's a weird way. There's a weird storytelling to get to that, but that is what I did to get into crypto. And then it's what I tried to do for everyone else. And you may not remember this, but in 2017, I also gave every one of my connections on LinkedIn who messaged me $50 of crypto.
Really?
So I 700 people I was their first. That was their first $50 of coin, and that was when
you were like getting them started.
Yeah,
I love it.
And that was their first, and so now that's why I become this moniker is I'm Bitcoin Jesus.
Is that your name? Do you have a T-shirt?
I have this long hair wig I should have worn. It's in my car, okay. and that became kind of the like just here in Utah, not like anywhere else, but I because 700 people that turned into thousands of people that they shared it with, and they remember their first coin coming from me, and now they tell me, Scott, it's still in there in Coinbase, and it's now worth $400.
That's unbelievable.
They love it.
Well, Scott, you certainly are an igniter. You are a connector. I could talk to you for hours, and I don't know if people could listen. I think they could because I find this extraordinarily fascinating, just all of this. But I want to be respectful of your time. We have a couple minutes. Let me just ask one last question while we wrap up. Talk to us a little bit personally, whether it's your faith journey, whether it's just your personal life. Like, how has this applied? You spoke about a little bit how this has affected your personal life. Like, how do you translate all this success that you've had, all this free thinking, all this really smart, yet I'll call them simple insights, which, by the way, most innovation is very simple and obvious. Yep. You need to strip out all the noise and like in the innovation I'm referencing is, why don't you look at people that aren't just in the public markets, which is the stock market is very hard to win if you're not in New York and blah, blah, blah. Why don't you see other people, your neighbors, your friends, and just mirror what they're doing, dip your toe in. So anyways, that's a very small, that's an obvious like thought, but it's a simple innovation. How do you tie all this into your personal life how does it apply to what's going on in your personal life? What life advice might you have for our listeners? The point of this podcast, like I said, is to help people, to inspire them, to uplift them. It's not political. It's not investment advice. Yeah. I'm trying to say, look, we're all ordinary, but we're also all extraordinary. And you're extraordinary in a lot of different ways. Boil it down for us here.
Well, this is
take us out. Take us home, baby.
All right. So an entrepreneur just had his company go public, and he came to me. We hot tubbed.
I like that.
And he says, Scott, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And this is I think I have this conversation every month with a newly minted, let's call it multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Mostly because I'm open online about like my journey. So people come and they're like, I think Scott might give it to me straight or have some ideas for me. And this last founder I was talking to, it was this analogy came to me. And this is I can't get out of my mind now that I think about it, but I've only been to one escape room, right? These experiences where you go and you kind of have to work as a team to get out. And some of them are multi-roomed. Most of the population is still in like the first escape room. And they think the thing is they're all thinking like the first ones get out of emancipate yourself from needing a salary or money. Like money is what is driving everyone, and they think I make this much, and then I got all these things I can do now. I learned after essentially getting out of escape room number one
Yeah.
That there's like 18 levels of this stupid thing. And yes, most of us are sitting down in that first room, but oh crap, there's 18. And I really I'm pretty good at figuring out how to make money now.
Yeah.
I suck at all of the other ones.
Yeah.
I gotta be a dad now. I gotta be a leader. I gotta be like a good husband. And then I'm like, I've got to go figure out like how to give back. I've got to figure out how to work on my mental health.
Yeah.
Got to work on my religion. Yeah. If I have one, do I have one? That's a whole escape room of its own. That like, what'd you get out of that one? Then you realize, oh man, everyone's stuck in this one too. What do I believe? What do I do with my money? Yeah. So I guess I can say, like, in just a nutshell, is that getting out of that first one is for me. I exited and it's easy. I got out. I'm not easy, but I'm out. I don't think about it as much. The world's my oyster when it comes to buying physical things or experiences, but it doesn't matter. Like I would almost on any given day trade with someone else who's got out of other escape rooms.
Yeah. That's like level 1 thinking.
Yeah.
You got to go to the other stages.
Yeah. Like on the first chakra or whatever, anything you're thinking, like I'm still the bottom of the pyramid really. And I've seen people who have maximized relationships, maximized their devotion to a philosophy or a religion, to a diet, to their health, to their mental health.
Yeah.
I would give I have so many people I look up to that I would switch almost any time, who have mastered who are out of these escape rooms. And so that's my journey, is I'm still there's 18 of them or whatever, and I'm still going through them. And I would try to get people to not reflect on the money one as much as they can. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You can get out of some of the other ones and let the money one. You can always be in the money one. Yeah. And actually, you probably never really get out of it, to be honest.
Yeah, you don't really ever get out of it, right? Because there's always more. There's always someone ahead of you. Yep. There's more comparison. Yep. And that's not the point. The point of life is not to compare. The point of life is to leave an impact. I think you're doing that in all your entrepreneurship, certainly on LinkedIn and your social media. And I've enjoyed everything we've done together. I look forward to doing more. And thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
All right.
It's been good to have you. I think there's been a lot of wisdom.
It was fun. Here. It was fun.
It's good to see you, Scott.
You too.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
What a fun podcast with Scott Paul. He is unique and one of a kind. I love when he spoke about having a plan and how that gave him anxiety, that if he had a plan, it would get anxiety. He likes to be free flowing, and it is so cool. I also loved, and it's a good spin on social media, which I kind of hate and I'm just not good at, but he said that all of his friendships, wealth, hobbies, and adventures has come from kind of the network and the following that he's created on LinkedIn. That's powerful and a good testament to the good that social media can do. I totally agree with him as well. Failures have to happen in order to figure out life. It's really easy to look at those that have been successful or you think are successful and to just think they've always been there. They've always been on top. They've figured this out. They understand life. It's just not true. Everyone goes through ups and downs. And oftentimes, especially as entrepreneurs, you feel like you're going to be down and out. Lastly, I love this quote. This is something I won't forget and something that resonates with me in my life. Entrepreneurship is a condition. For him, it's like the air he breathes. And I often feel that way as well. There are extraordinary people that are just ordinary. Scott doesn't have any hair. He just showed me his wig. He has his torn ACL right now. They're ordinary people that go through the same hard things, but they're doing extraordinary things. That's what the Us podcast is about. I hope you've enjoyed today. Please share it with family and friends. We're really excited to finally be out with season 2. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Extraordinary Us podcast with Jeff Burningham. Please help us grow by leaving a rating and review and subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Also, tell your friends and share on social media. See you again next week.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Jeff.
And Sal.
I'm here with my wife. Why? Because we're starting a podcast together.
Yes, we are.
And it's called
Under Our Bed.
Why is it called that, Sally?
Because we are sitting under our bed right now. In this podcast studio.
Yes. And we're going to be talking about things that are interesting, vulnerable, relevant,
funny.
So check it out. Funny if you're on. So check it out wherever you get your podcast, wherever you listen to The Extraordinary Us. Look for Under Our Bed with Jeff and Sal.
Check it out.
Good night.
Good night.